What is up, guys? This is your boy Dashy. We are back with another episode of Track Guides, and this time we're going to be covering Megamix Mania. If there's any techniques that I mentioned during this video that you don't understand, such as holding fire and U-turns, feel free to go back to the first episode of this series on Crash Cove, where I go over those techniques. So just like every other time trial, we're going to get our starting boost, and then we're going to start a power slide basically immediately and follow this corner as close as possible, and then we hit this boost pad to get our fire. From here, we build up a little bit more reserves before hitting this blue fire pad here, and then jumping straight into the containers. As we exit the containers, I try to go to the right and then to the left to give myself a little bit more room to play as we jump through the gravel. As we go through the scaffolding, I try to jump to the left basically as close as possible. I do a little U-turn on this 90-degree turn as well. As we go to the second shortcut, of course, I also cut that as close to the left as possible. As I go down this big jump, I try to aim for this little dirt patch and then jump a second time after landing. That kind of makes sure that I don't hit the wall. Throughout the minefield section, I prefer to go down the center, though the right is technically faster. Now we're going to begin lap 2, and a similar thing arises where we basically just follow the best possible line that you could imagine, and then repeat basically everything all over again. The propellers have a cycle to them as they move left and right, so you're going to be paying attention to those to make sure that you don't hit them while also trying to incorporate the best line possible. As we come up to this big jump again, I just want to say again, I aim for this little dirt patch and then a second jump right there to get a second hang time boost and then a right slide. Personally, I do that because it makes sure that I don't hit the wall. Throughout the mine section, again, I prefer to go down the center. The right is technically faster, but I personally haven't noticed much of a difference. Throughout here, also, you can jump through this gravel right before the blue fire pad, and it should save a little bit of time. Similarly, if you U-turn throughout this gravel here, you can actually preserve some of your speed as well and cut that turn even tighter, but I can't personally make this work very well, so if you can, by all means, go for it. As we wrap up the time trial, Oxide basically loses fire somewhere around here, I think, every lap. So basically, if you can make it partway through the minefield, you should be fine in terms of being able to beat the Oxide Ghost. You have about, I think it's like 12 or 13 seconds to spare to be able to beat him, compared to a really solid time. So you definitely have some room to play with. So from here, we're going to move on and talk a little bit about the single race section of this track. So we got something a little bit different here. We actually have online gameplay rather than my usual single race and or speedrun gameplay. So we're basically going to be following the same tactics for the time trial, getting a box right before this blue fire pad, and then from there I can really just talk about how the track plays out more so. So this track seems like it does not have that many Wumpa Fruit boxes, but it's also a blue fire track. So there's kind of an interesting disparity there in that if you get a missile, the chances of it ever hitting anybody is kind of low. And if you get a warp orb, it'll only ever really hit the first person. There are some Wumpa Fruit boxes. There's some on the left side of the tires right before the big jump. And then if you're on the minefield section, there's another box on the right path. From there, I think there might be another one somewheres, but I'm not really sure offhand. I've already kind of forgotten. The only other thing that I kind of want to talk about is, like, it feels like the boost pads on this track don't give very many reserves. So if you do get hit off of blue fire, it seems like it's really hard to adjust and actually build up reserves and keep the fire off of any of the other boost pads. Anytime that I've lost fire, it feels like it's very difficult to get it back until you get to basically the start of the lap again. But again, that's just a big IMO kind of thing. I'm not sure if that's really kind of the case. The only other thing is, once again, I really don't like the idea of having a set of boxes right before the only blue fire pad on the entire course. Because basically all it means is if you don't get hit in the first 10 seconds of the race, you probably won, because everybody else probably already got hit and lost fire. If you are lucky enough to have multiple people make it past the first opening mayhem, then you might have a race, but other than that, not really, in my opinion. At least that's kind of how every race felt when I played it. It's either, you know, I didn't get hit at the start and I won by a country mile, or somebody else didn't get hit at the start and they won by a country mile. So, I don't know. I think online this track isn't that fantastic, though I do love the aesthetic. Oh, there is another Wumpa crate right there. You can kind of see it. Cool. So this last little section is actually going to be me kind of driving around at a slower pace to kind of take in the scenery, I guess you could say. And the only reason I'm even doing this is just because it's a new track, and I wanted to talk about my take on the aesthetics of the new track and stuff like that. So we can see that we start basically in this like post-apocalyptic, dried up, desert, barren version of Ruse Tubes. You can see all the coral reef and stuff like that. It's pretty neato. And then we've got the shipwrecked engine ship from Twinsanity. And then you can also see in the right side, which sparked a lot of people's interest, the Rusty Walrus painting alongside the words Rusty Walrus. Personally, I don't really care about new characters and stuff like that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. If you do care, I mean, good for you, but I personally don't. So, moving forward, I mean, the thing that I like the most about this is, well, of course, the post-apocalyptic look. I'm really a sucker for post-apocalyptic, like, settings. The only thing that's kind of weird to me is that it gives me more vibes of like Rage 2. Like, I haven't played Rage 2, but like the promotional art for Rage 2, in comparison to something like Mad Max or Fallout or whatever, where the artistic style was more like dusty kind of looking thing, and Rage 2 and this are more of like a very colorful, bright, graffiti styled post-apocalypse. I personally think, I mean, like, it's okay. I personally like regular, just really gritty post-apocalypse better, but I mean, the paint's cool too. Adding color to everything is very nifty TM, but from there, I think it's kind of clashing, and I know what it's going for. You've got like the mines, when they explode, they put paint all over your screen instead of, you know, actually just exploding. At first, of course, I was like, yeah, because it's kid friendly, but I mean, really that doesn't make too much sense, because we also have like bombs and TNTs and nitros and stuff like that, so we already have plenty of explosions. There's not really too much of a reason to make them paint rather than actual bombs. But as we go into the ship, we can see a few Easter eggs of sorts. We've got the little scrubby dudes from Crash 2's sewer levels. I thought it was really cool off in the distance. If you look to the right, that reminded me of like Borderlands in a sense. Like, I don't remember what it looked like that reminded me of Borderlands, but there you go. Got this like green, almost zombified looking Megamix right next to a rat from Crash 2 as well. As we make a jump across, you can see this little area right here is something you can actually just fall right off of. That's neato. You can see the Oppo mask over there on the other shortcut. And then we've got another thing that sparked everybody's interest. You can see the Rusty Walrus basically running into the ship. Of course, it's a reference to Twinsanity again. A little section there where he chases after you and runs into the wall. Now, this is basically the identity of this track, IMO. This huge, big jump with these missiles. You can see off in the distance the oil refinery with Megamix on it. It's very neato. And then we do the big jump down into the big downhill section of Ruse Tubes as we go into this minefield. Now again, like I talked about, there's 3 routes to it. There's the left route, which has a boost pad at the end. Personally, it's a little bit slower. Then we got the right route, which also has a boost pad at the end, and it also has a Wumpa crate. And then the center route, which has a bunch of minefields and stuff like that, and allows you to stay on the ground. And like I said during the time trial portion, I personally prefer the center route. I don't really know why. I think it's just a little bit more easy for me to pull off. But yeah, I don't know. Then you can see this Uka painting as well. Looks pretty neato. I definitely actually like the Uka painting. As we go through here, we get to the ending section on the left side. We got this bonfire of sorts, I guess you could say. Got a looking like a T-Rex skull on the sign to the right. And then on the right side, we've got these green scorpions, and you know, they really do just kind of be vibing. They've also got the little radioactive symbols on top of them. It's kind of funny. But yeah, they just vibing, dude. They just chilling. So, other than that, there's not too much that I want to talk about. That's basically how I feel about the track visually. I really, really, really like all the shipwrecked Basically everything torn apart look to it. I like the dusty look of it. The graffiti is a little bit overdone IMO, but it's whatever. I like all the little references, of course, with, I mean, even though I don't really care if Rusty the Walrus gets added or whatever, I think it's cool that the references are there. Another thing that's kind of neat is the Oppo mask, which is basically just the newer Uka mask and the newer Aku masks from like the Crash of the Titan games. Basically combined, it's like an Aku mask wearing a metal version of an Uka mask, which is pretty neato TM. But other than that, again, there isn't too much else to talk about. There is one final thing that I thought was funny, but it's definitely not important. And it's after you do this big jump here, you can basically jump at the wall, and it has some very funky physics to it that allows you to basically float up it. There's nothing really important about this at all. You can't go all the way back up to the ship, to my knowledge, even if you come back to this section with Bluefire, but it's just funny. I just thought it was funny, and I spent like 5 minutes on stream just jumping at this wall endlessly. It was interesting state of mind that I was in. But other than that, that's gonna be the end of this video. Now, you might be wondering, hey, wasn't there a ring rally section to these track guide videos? And you would be correct. There was. Past tense, was. I've decided that I'm not going to be doing ring rally in these videos anymore for a couple reasons. For one, I don't think too many people are super interested in ring rally in the first place. I don't think it was something that too many people really cared to watch, and I think it just kind of fluffed up the video more than adding anything of value. Personally, I haven't really played many of the ring rallies as well, so it adds another thing that I have to personally do if I want to put out another video. So like if I wanted to do a video on Megamix Mania, of course, I would be forced to also record a ring rally run on Megamix Mania and then commentary over it, which just takes up extra time and effort that I just could not force myself to do. So it's basically alleviating my workload a little bit, so I might have a little bit more of a desire to continue the series. This will of course mean the videos are a little bit shorter and a little bit less in-depth about a few things, but so be it. That's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and let me know your thoughts in the comments about the new track as well. I will see you guys later.